when and where were you born?
I was born in Emporia, Kansas, January 12th, 1943.
Who are your parents?
Morris and Grace Wilson. They were farmers at the time.
And what did they do after that?
Oh, many things. My father was in business with in an appliance store, tires and appliances and all kinds of things. TVs. We had one of the first TVs in Kansas or in Ottawa where I lived. Daddy then bought a dry cleaner and had that for a while, and then he sold that and he went to work for the cooperative and managed a division of their plant. So that's what he did until he went to Kansas City to work for Farmland Industries, and he did that until he retired. Mom she was judge pro tem for the probate judge in Franklin counties, and that's what she did all the years I remember.
How old was your mom when she had you?
22.
So how did your family come to live in Emporia?
In Emporia, they didn't live in Emporia. That was the closest hospital.
Okay.
They lived in the country between there and Ottawa, and Emporia was where Mom went to doctor. That's where she was in the hospital.
So did your grandparents live there too?
They lived on a farm outside of Quinnamo, Kansas, and that's where they lived until my grandmother passed away. And neither of them ever worked any place other than Grandpa was a farmer or a rancher all of his life.
So the house that you were raised in, what was it like?
It's a big old 2-story house.
How many rooms?
9, I think.
Do you have bathrooms inside?
Bathrooms were inside.
Okay.
I don't ever remember. Well, my grandparents still had one standing when I was growing up, but they had the indoor bathroom too. So that it was. I don't remember going outside other than when we wanted to.
Camping or something.
Yeah, things like that. But no, the house that I was raised in was just after a period of time. We moved quite a bit, different houses, but the last years that I remember, it was a big old 2-story house. And my sister and I had the upstairs with our bathroom, and then Mom and Dad were downstairs with the rest of the house. And then there was a fixed up. There are basements in Kansas, from Grandma Dorothy, and we had a room down there that we could have friends over and watch TV and what have you.
So did you have a telephone in the house? What year did you get the TV?
It was in the 40s. We were still living on the other side of town. Let's see, probably about 1947 or 8.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory was of my dog Sandy. He was a big old collie, Lassie collie, and my dad had to lock him up before he could spank me because he would growl at me.
What was school like for you as a child?
Like I said, I started school in a small school, and I started when I started first grade, didn't go to kindergarten. It was fun, it was great. We moved, and the friends that I had in grade school, I still had when we graduated from high school. We all went all the way through school together. And
What were your best and worst subjects?
my worst is math. Best was communications.
How old were you when you got kissed for the first time?
Probably in the 8th grade, which would have made me
Do you remember who it was?
Yep. It was Joel. He was one of my neighbors, and we played together all the time.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear. Probably the worst thing that could happen, I would say, is a catastrophic illness that would leave me totally incapacitated, but still alive. I don't want to do that.
So when you were growing up, describe a typical dinner.
A typical dinner.
What did you eat? Like, who was there?
My mother and father, sister. My sister was 3 years younger than I am, and my grandmother most of the time. She lived with us most of the time after we moved to Iowa. And typical meals were, we had lots of casseroles, meat and vegetable, and lots of salads. We were health freaks before they were. So Mom, salad, we almost always had salad and meat, and Dad had meat and potatoes and vegetables. Desserts, always fresh bread, ground baked bread all the time.
And did your mom do the cooking? Or your dad? Or
Some.
kind of both?
Mom cooked some. No, my dad didn't cook. But Mom cooked some, Grandma cooked most of the time, and we had a lady that came in and cleaned for us. And occasionally, and she was a Dunkard lady, which I don't know whether that would be like the Mennonites down here, and she would do a little cooking down there.
Okay. So when Larry proposed to you, where was it? What was it like? And when was it?
Larry and I met on a blind date. My best friend and was going with his best friend, and they decided we needed to meet each other. I lived in Ottawa and he lived in Topeka. He was working in Topeka. And he came to get me every weekend and took me to Topeka, and I would stay with Tyke. He had to go to a wedding rehearsal dinner. He was best man at somebody's, or he was a groomsman at somebody's wedding. And he said, "You drop me off and then come back and pick me up." Well, I went back and picked him up, and he was drunk. They had been having one heck of a party, and he was laying down in the front seat with his head in my lap, and he looked up at me with this silly look on his face. "I'll marry you someday." And that was kind of the beginning, but he did better later on. He really did ask me.
And when was that? When was the official proposal?
You know, I can't tell you the date. It was
what
in
year?
62, and it would have been in the summer of 62, I think July, maybe. But the exact date, I don't know. We talked all the way around it all after that. After he sobered up, I told him after the weekend that they had that I said, do you remember what you said?" "Well, I know what I said." And I said, "And did you mean it?" "Well, he said yes, he meant it." So that was kind of, I guess that was first. That's one of those funny things. We had a fun time. Our life's been fun.
When and where did you get married?
We got married in Ottawa, Kansas, in the First Methodist Church, October 13th, 1962.
Did you have a honeymoon?
Yes. We went to Corpus Christi for a week, and that's when we decided that we were going to retire in Texas. So,
And here you are.
and here we are. That's right.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Lots of laughing. Lots of laughing. He does make me laugh. And cooperation. I mean, whatever you do it together. That's the big thing. And I know that's not always possible in some marriages because of the job, working and so forth. I was privileged to be he wanted me home with Chris after he got to be a certain age, so I stayed home from the time Chris was probably a junior. sophomore in high school, something like that. And didn't work after that. But it's not always possible to do that to have a marriage like we did or the way we did. And it wasn't without its bumps. They all have their bumps. They always have a bump in the road now. But you go with it.
Yep.
Sometimes you take a break, back away, and just kind of don't leave. You don't want to leave because that makes too final.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way we've always been. Always did it together.
So why did you choose your child's name?
Larry chose his name. There was a brokerage firm in Topeka, and it was CJ, and I can't think of the last part of it, but it was a brokerage firm. And he liked that, and Christopher was part of that name, and he liked that. And so he said, okay, I'll name the boys, you name the girls. Well, I didn't get a chance to name a girl because we didn't have any more. And that was not by choice.
What was your proudest moment as a parent?
As a parent, I think just having him, the fact that I got him here. And we, because I began to wonder there for a while. It took a little while to get him to decide to come. He kind of liked where he was.
Do you have any bad habits now or that you did have in the past?
Probably I like wine too well.
Is that a bad habit in the past or now?
Probably now more than anything else. I couldn't afford it sometimes before.
What was one of the hardest choices you've ever had to make?
Oh, hard choices. Other than moves that we made when Larry was working. And you've been in when you've been in a community for a long period of time and you have good friends, it's hard to say you're going, but you have to do it if you're going to help out the economics of your family and provide for them as best you can. So that was those choices were, some of them were real easy. Sometimes when he would have an offer, it was easy, just we're going. And the other times it was 2 or 3 other times it was really difficult to say goodbye to good friends that have been with you and through lots of things with you. So,
How do you want people to remember you?
Oh, that's a good question. As a helper. That's probably the only thing I can think
of. When and where were you born?
Topeka, Kansas, October 16th, 1963.
Who were your parents?
Pat and Larry Oestreich.
How old was your mom when she had you?
Have no clue. 21.
How did your family come to live there?
Moving van.
What was your house like that they brought you back to?
Small.
How many rooms?
4.
Did you have a bathroom? Inside?
Sure.
Electricity?
Yes.
Telephone?
Yes.
When did you get your first TV?
When I was 14.
Was it color?
Yes.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
Going to Grandpa and Grandma Oestreich's.
Where did they live?
Lynn, Kansas.
How far was that from Topeka?
2 hours.
What was school like for you as a child?
I was pathetic.
What were your best and worst subjects?
Best subject was social studies. Worst subject was math.
How old were you when you got your first kiss?
12. And I think it was Lisa Compton.
Was that in Phillipsburg?
No.
How old
was
were
in
you when you moved
Fredonia.
to Phillipsburg?
13.
So you lived in Topeka, then Fredonia?
Oh,
In
you
Phillipsburg?
don't want to go down
Oh.
this road. I lived in Topeka, Holton, Fredonia, Robinson, Kansas City, Phillipsburg.
Wow. And then you graduated from Phillipsburg,
Phillipsburg High School.
Okay. What's your biggest fear?
Fallen.
Like, just like tripping
Heights.
over something? Or
No.
heights? Okay.
Reoccurring dream, falling off the bridge.
Okay. Describe a typical family dinner.
Chatty.
What did you eat? What was like a typical meal?
Oh, when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
fried chicken.
And who made it?
Mom.
Always?
Always.
What was it like when you proposed?
Fun.
Where was it?
Phillipsburg. Living room of our house.
Of your parents'
Out
house?
of my parents' house.
What do you remember the year?
Christmas of 83.
So this is
Christmas
like
time of 83.
Aw. When and where did you get married?
July 21st, 1984, Catholic Church in Phillipsburg, Kansas.
Did you have a honeymoon?
Yes.
Where'd you
We went to the Ozarks.
go? Little did you know you'd be living there.
Yes.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Trust.
Why did you choose your children's names?
Sounded good at the time.
So, who came up with their names?
We did collaboratively.
What was your proudest moment as a parent?
Seeing them both graduate from high school. Seeing them overcome obstacles. Spencer's college graduation, Spencer's wedding, Logan's first day of college.
Do you have any bad habits now or in the past?
I eat poorly. I binge. I work out real hard, then I binge eat.
So that's a past and a current bad habit.
Yes, it is.
What were the hardest choices you've ever had to make?
Family over career.
How do you want people to remember you?
Happy. Fun.
That's it. So, when and where were you born?
March 2nd, 1937, in Farmhouse, Lynn, Kansas.
Okay. Who were your parents?
Walter and Henrietta Oestreich.
How old was your mom when she had you?
She would have been 22,
Was that her first child?
our second child.
Second child, okay. How did your family come to live in Kansas?
My great-great-great-grandmother homesteaded land in Washington County. Part of the Homestead Act. She lived in a dugout, an earthen dug in the ground. Lived there for probably 8 or 9 years. That's how the family got there. They come from Germany.
Okay, so they've been here a long time.
Yeah,
Your family's been
yes.
here a long time.
Yes, they have.
What was the house that you grew up in? What was it like? How many rooms did it have?
It was a wood-sided house. Was a 3-bedroom, probably approximately 1,800, 2,000 square feet. One of the few houses actually in the community that had a basement, actually had a concrete basement. And we lived, and that house was located on Highway 9, state of Kansas, Highway 9 between Lynn and Greenleaf, Kansas.
Did you have bathrooms inside?
No, we did not have bathrooms inside. We had no running water, had no electricity.
When did you get your first telephone?
In probably 1944 that I can remember.
Yeah. What's your earliest childhood memory?
No, going to church in our car, had no heater, had comforters, and drove back and forth to and from church for that. That was probably my first memories that I think about, you know. Mm-hmm. Especially at Christmas time.
Aw. What was school like for you as a child?
I went to a country school, walked to school, which was about 1.5 miles from the home, and walked to school and from school, unless the weather was really bad, and then they come pick us up with a vehicle or a horse and wagon. And that was, I loved it.
You liked school?
Yeah, I loved school.
What were your best and worst subjects?
Probably history and probably math.
Those are your best ones?
Yeah, what?
That was your best one? Was history?
Yeah, history probably.
Yeah. How old were you when you got kissed for the first time?
And I did what? Kiss?
Yeah. How old were you?
My mother used to kiss us all the time as kids. My first, I guess, social kiss
Yeah.
that I can remember. I was probably in 5th or 6th grade.
Do you remember who it was?
I guess I do. Yes. Her name was Dorothy Bauer. She was a neighbor. They lived about 1.5 miles down the road from us. So, and we just were, we grew up together.
Yeah. What's your biggest fear?
Well, I guess my biggest fear is that when I leave, my life on earth here is done, that I leave it better than what I had when I can first remember.
Mm-hmm. So when you were growing up, describe a typical dinner, typical family dinner. What did you eat and who made it?
We had 3 meals a day: a breakfast, lunch, a dinner, and or supper. Okay. We always had. We raised 90% of everything we ate. We always had meat, vegetables at every meal, and that was a normal meal. And we always sit down as a family to eat it.
Your mom made it?
Yep.
Or your dad?
No, Mom made it.
What was it like when you proposed? And when was it?
It was super great. It was a great feeling.
When and where did it happen?
Where did that happen? Well, it happened, I can't remember the year, probably 1961, and we were at a little tavern at Carbondale, Kansas, which would have been south of Topeka, and we were going back from up at Ottawa. We went back. We was going back to Topeka, where I live, where I work. We stopped. We talked, and I proposed to her.
Did you have a ring?
Not then.
It was just a promise at that point.
Yes, right. It was a promise at that point.
When and where did you get married?
We got married at Ottawa, Kansas, in 1962. First Methodist Church, Ottawa, Kansas.
Did you have a honeymoon?
Yes, we did. We went to Corpus Christi to the beach. Spent a week down there.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Trust one another. Just love and trust.
Why did you choose your child's name?
Good question. I like the initial CJ.
Mm-hmm.
Pat said that we're not going to name it, you know. I said, well, I had a brother named James and an uncle named Christopher. And I said, well, Christopher James. That'd be CJ.
Yep. What was your proudest moment as a parent?
As a parent, walking in the hospital room, and there he was in Pat's arms. That was about as proud as I can get. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any bad habits now or in the past?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I got bad habits.
Do you not think they're bad?
No, I don't think they're bad. I'm probably kind of overprotective, so to speak, maybe. I don't know. And I'm probably kind of, at times, pretty black and white, pretty demanding. I don't tolerate gray areas very well.
What were the hardest choices you've ever had to make?
Well, I'm not real sure that I really had real hard choices. I think they're the most, because the choices I made it. Most of it was unless we was as a husband and wife. I made it. It was an independent decision, and some of the professional moves that I made, they were all very. Well, none of them was very hard, really. It was just kind of my biggest thing was I always tried to, when I made a move, that it wouldn't be a horizontal move, it would be an upward move, and it all worked out in life for me that way. So,
Last question. How do you want people to remember you?
as a fun-loving, happy person.